This video, we're going to make an image viewer. The real fundamentals of what we're going to do here is we're going to have a local directory, not actual embedded resources. We're going to have a swipe view, and we're going to be able to swipe between those images, and they're going to scale. These are actually desktops that I have on my computer. So let's look and see how we can make this happen. We're going to go New. We're going to go down to Swipe View. And again, I'm going to do this video with zero editing, so you're going to see every single nasty little flaw that I make. So we're going to turn this guy, ta-da, into this guy. To do that, though, we need to work with the local disk, and that's not something QML can actually do directly. So we're going to have to make a C++ class. So let's kill this. We're going to go in here, right-click, add new. C++ class, let's call this dir helper. Q object. And you see a lot of vendors out there like, hey, we get this super special high performance class that'll load files off the disk. This is really all they're doing. So it's really not super hard. We're going to include qdir. We're going to include qfile. Actually, let's do file info. And let's go ahead and include qfile info list. And again, disclaimer alert. I'm going to get tongue-tied. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm doing this video without any editing. My neighbors have a new dog, and the dog likes to bark. So I'm really hoping the microphone doesn't pick too much of that up. qdir. My office right now looks kind of comical. Basically, what's going on is I've got like blankets and stuff everywhere to absorb the sound, so you guys hopefully don't hear a lot of what's going on outside in the real world. So we're going to set path. So what we're really doing here is the dir helper class is going to basically allow us to select a directory, and then it's going to return a list of files back from that directory. So that's what's going on here is I'm just doing a path and a set path. And let's say a qstring list. And this is going to be files. All right, now because we are working with C++ and we want to use this in QML, we need to use the Q property. And I'm going to say qstring. The name is going to be path. So read is path, write is set path. Notice that's spelled a little differently. Sometimes it lets us edit it, sometimes it does not. Path changed, I really don't need a notify, so I'm going to just get rid of that. Bang. So I've got read path. See, yes, IntelliSense tried to help us here, so I'm going to comment that out. Now suddenly it lets us. Oh, that is super picky like that. And then I'm going to copy and paste, and I'm going to say q string list. I realize the IDE is trying to help us follow their, when I say their, Qt's way of doing things, but just don't like it, to be brutally honest with you. So we're going to say qstring list, let's call this files. Let's get rid of this. I kind of screwed this all up. Sometimes I cannot read, talk, and type all at the same time. There we go. And let's call that files. That way it lines up. So if we call files, it's just going to call this, which is going to return that. And it's pretty self-explanatory. So let's go ahead and fill some of these in. Right-click, refactor. There's our path. Set path. Files. And we're going to add this definition. Bang. Now in the path, we're going to actually return the dir.path. In case you're wondering what's going on here, it's just this guy right here. Ta-da! So qdir, when it first is created, it actually gets the current directory. It's actually very helpful in that sense. And then we're going to set path value. And then the files. We're just going to simply say q file info list equals, and we want to go dir dot entry info list, and we're going to say qdir all entries qdir no dot and dot, and we want to make sure these are files. Super helpful if I actually did it case sensitive. There we go. So really what we're doing is we're saying we want an entry info list, but we want it to be filtered. We want all entries, no dot and dot, and files. You should know what all that means if you follow the prerequisites for this course. But basically we're just getting a list of files. All right, so let's go ahead and let's build our file list here. So I'm going to say qstring list file list return file list. Then we're just going to do a for each q file info and list. And let's go ahead and say file list. We're going to go ahead and append the info.file path. Just in case you are completely lost and you skip that day in Qt Core, really all we're doing is when the application loads, we're saying, hey, the dir is the current path, but we want to be able to set path to set it to a destination on the hard drive or the network, could be the network. And then if we call this files, then we're going to actually get a listing of files. We're going to convert those from qFileInfo list into just a qstring list and then return that string list of files. So basically we're just saying, give me all the files of that directory. Whew. All right. Now what we need to do is go in here and we're going to do some surgery here. I'm going to get rid of this just because I don't want it. I'm going to get rid of this just because I don't want it. And we're going to keep this super, super simple. So don't want these pages in here. What we do want to do is actually import our dir helper. So to do that, we of course need to do a QML register type. So let's flip back to C++ land. Let's go in here. Let's add our includes. So we're going to include, and we want to include dir helper. And let's go ahead and drop it right here. And I'm going to say QML register type dir helper. Let's go ahead and give this a snazzy name. com.company dir helper. I want this to be major version 1, minor version 0. And let's call this dir helper. Let's give this a build, make sure we didn't goof anything up. Ta-da! All right. Now we can go in here, go into our QML file, and let's go ahead and import this. Actually, we're going to import controls first. Actually, we got controls. What was I thinking? Let's go qtquick.window 212. And let's go ahead and import our com.company.dir helper. And we want 1.0. Save this, give it a build. All right, good. Now I want to add in dir helper right here. And then we're going to give it a path. check this right here. Ah, it did uppercase it. Drat. All right, let's lowercase that again, just because I want it lowercase. There we go. I should be able to name the things I want to name, darn it. So we're going to say path. And this is where I'm going to give it an actual physical destination. There are things like dialogues and things like that where you can pick an actual destination, but we're not there yet. And it says invalid property name. I'm sure if I give this a good build, it'll suddenly... Let's see if we can fix this. Super cranky about that for some reason. Path, it is lowercase. We're going to just ignore that for now. I think that's just an issue with the IDE being cranky. So I'm going to get rid of this footer right here because we really don't want a footer. And then in here, we're going to say component.onCompleted. And I'm going to say var files equal dirhelper.files. And then let's go ahead and do a for var I equal 0. We're just going to go through all these files here. We're going to say I is less than files.length. And then we're going to increment I. It's still bugging me that this is saying property invalid. Grr. All right, we're going to move forward. We may have to debug that and figure out what's going on if I screwed something up. Console.log. It's one of the dangers of doing these in real time. Loading. I've talked to a lot of people and said, why do you want to see me make mistakes? And they're like, well, we want to see how you figure these mistakes out because we're making the same mistakes. And I'm like, okay, that's fair. And some other instructors will heavily modify their videos to the point you can't really tell how they got from point A to point B. So I get that. We're going to say create component. And we've done this before, but we did a nasty string. This time we're going to actually load up you guessed it, a QML file. So I'm going to go right here, and I'm going to rename this. Actually, I'm going to remove that altogether. Let's add new. And let's call this image page. Let's go into our beautiful little image page, and I'm going to copy and paste just a smidge of imports there. And item, property, alias. This is going to be a source. And this is going to point to an image. So I'm going to say I want a page. Anchors.fill. Got a little ahead of myself there. Parents, there we go. And in here, we want an image. And so our property alias is just going to point to this image's source. And we're going to get rid of that. Actually, I'm just going to comment it out. There we go. And I'm going to go into here. I'm going to go image, preserve aspect fit. Pretty simple, pretty basic. If we really wanted to, and I'm going to copy and paste this in here. If you wanted like a test image, just in case. Actually, let me uncomment that. We're going to test this real quick. Getting a little ahead of myself here. So what we're going to do in here is we're going to actually load this up. And remember, in the previous video, we actually did a long string. We're going to do the preferred method, or the easy method, which is we're going to just tell the engine to create a component based off a QML file. So it's just going to load that up. All right, now that we have that component loaded in as string, basically, we're going to say var page. It does a lot more than load it into a string. It actually parses it and error checks it and does a few other things. But we're going to say component dot, and we're going to create object. And the parent is going to be the swipe view. Let's set some properties here. So I want the width to be got a little behind on that one. There we go. All right, so this is going to be 640. Let's go ahead and comma. And if you're wondering what I'm doing here, I'm very badly trying to set the properties. There we go. 480. So let's go ahead and save and run, see what this looks like so far. Nothing. Grr. All right, so let's figure out what's going on here. We've got and then component. Did we actually log some of that? No. File not defined, tab bar not defined, QMLI 26. So file.length. This is part of our problem right there. So we want to go files.length. File is not defined. Where are you seeing that again? Ah, files. That is just being the bane of our existence here, isn't it? Let me kill that stuff out. Save and run. All right, so it's just going to be this default image, but you can see there's a certain number. So those are the files, and we have the full paths to those files. So now we just have to set those files in there. So let's kill that. And let's say page.source. Remember, that's that property alias equals. And we want file, whack, and plus files and the index. So really what we're doing here is we're saying out of the list of files, get the actual file name, for example, this guy, and set it as the page source. The page source is the alias to that image. All right, let's save this. Let's run it, see what it looks like. Ta-da, it works. So some major takeaways from this beyond my horrible typing and getting sidetracked is it's actually fairly easy to integrate C++ with QML. And whenever you start interfacing with the file system, it's pretty much mandatory that you interface C++ and QML. And that's kind of a glass ceiling that some people really get stuck on. But once you understand the foundations of it, it's extremely easy.